आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं।
It feels very special to be here today. Thank you all for coming to attend the first ever Right Circle event organized by the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. I'm Esha Datta, Honorary Convener Northeast Affairs, and I warmly welcome you to the launch of Prabha Khaitan Foundation in Shillong. We are happy to launch a new chapter here in Guwahati, Shillong and Dimapur. We started yesterday at Guwahati, we are here today in Shillong, and we move onwards to Dimapur tomorrow. Today, the Foundation, along with its hospitality and venue partner, Vivanta, the support of Ehsas Women of Shillong, under the initiative The Right Circle, welcomes our guest author for the evening, Preeti Shenoy. Before we dive into the most awaited conversation of the evening, let me take a couple of minutes to talk about the Foundation and the woman behind it. Late Dr. Prabha Khaitan was a trailblazer in her own right. Born at a time when women were confined with designated roles, Dr. Khaitan was a revolutionary character who was much ahead of her time. She was a philanthropist, author, poet, entrepreneur and campaigner for women's causes, educational and cultural institutions, and a promoter of Indian art and heritage. She was the founder of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to socio-cultural and humanitarian welfare in the late 1980s to work for a better tomorrow, drive the machinery of the organization, and embodied in her famous words, Karam hi jeevan hai, work is life. PKF has a colossal presence as an organization which encourages and promotes literary and cultural heritage of India. Charting a glorious 40-year journey, the foundation has relentlessly endeavored to create boutique events to showcase the prized assets of literature and cultural heritage, pan-India and on the global map, with a niche audience with finer experiences. Amazing initiatives allow PKF to create cultural capital, and in this journey, we are privileged to receive the support of our patron, Shree Cements Limited. The foundation continuously strives to connect readers to the literary creations of authors and poets, and showcases talented artists, musicians, dancers through praiseworthy literary and cultural initiatives. Some literary initiatives for the authors' meets, book launches, lit fests, panel discussions are an author's afternoon, The Right Circle, Loves, Akhar and Kitab. Under the cultural and heritage initiatives, we have Sur aur Saaz, Teta Tea, Ek Mulaqat, where we host artists. Rahat, Karuna, Sahyog fall under social welfare, and Muskan under child development. Then we have the Women Empowerment Wing. It is a conglomeration of women from various walks of life across India and overseas who work for the betterment of society and inspire others to do the same. Ehsas women act as catalysts to conjoin with the Foundation's endeavors. To create a disciplinary, hassle-free platform for the events, we follow certain stringent protocols. PKF is known to start the event sharp on time. The events are by invite only, and confirmations are received well in advance, accommodating only 30 or so guests per event. Any last-minute dropouts in advance are informed in advance, so the seat can be filled by someone else from the list. To widen the community and social spectrum, the Foundation leaves no stone unturned to exchange cross-city mementos, treat guests and audiences to taste the local authentic cuisine, and appreciate the handloom and sculpture work of local artisans. The Trust is committed to 13 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, set by the United Nations. To create awareness in the community, we uphold one pressing social issue every month. We are elated to share that 3-time Grammy Award winner Ricky Cage, the man behind the anthem and signature caller tune of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, has curated 12 amazing musical pieces to score across video invites of events and social media platforms, as well as for pan-India and overseas communications. Each piece of music composed by Cage for the Trust is unique, defined by his creator's love for the environment. Cage's music raises awareness for climate change and the urgency to step up sustainability measures in every sphere of our lives. This December, the cause of the month, Mere Desh Mera Gaon, is a song about journeying around the world and returning to India because the heart lies with the motherland. With this, the foundation has always strived to reach new heights every day. Today, Preeti Shenoy will be in conversation with Jyoti Agarwal, fellow SRS woman of Shillong. We are all eagerly waiting for an interesting conversation. But before we move on, a little bit about the author. Preeti Shenoy, who has authored 16 bestsellers, ranks among the highest-selling authors in India. She has represented India at several international lit fests. Her exceptional achievements and contributions to literature have been recognized and celebrated worldwide. With simplicity and readability as her hallmark, Preeti Shenoy's books tackle serious issues such as mental health, gender inequality, socio-economic class divide, relationship dynamics, and challenges faced by young adults. Shenoy is the recipient of the Popular Choice Fiction Award 2021 by Author Awards from the Times of India, as well as the most popular self-help book of 2021 by Amazon India, Indian of the Year and Business Excellence Award. Beyond her accomplishments as a writer, Shenoy is a sought-after motivational speaker, enjoys travel, blogging, yoga. She is also an avid fitness enthusiast, as well as an artist specializing in portraiture and illustrated journals. The conversationalist for today is Jyoti Agarwal. She is a literary enthusiast, a talented professional in her own right, and fellow SRS woman of Shillong. Without further ado, I invite Jyoti and Preeti to please come here. And over to you, Jyoti.
Thank you, Isha. I'm so glad and thrilled to have Preeti amongst us today. As you know, it's the first inaugural session of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, and it's just giving me so much joy to have her because she has 15 best-selling books all over India. The only woman to do so in India, people. So I think we need to clap and tell her that it's really good. So, Preeti, I won't take too much of time because I know everyone's here to listen to you and to how you've accomplished all of this. So the first thing I was intrigued with, that you have 15 best-selling books, and that too, like every year you're coming out with one book. So how do you do it? Like, do you have a schedule? Do you go to a place where you feel you get the inspiration from, where you can come out with all the creativity? How do you do it? Please let us know.
Okay, before I answer that, thank you so much all of you for turning up. Lovely to be back in Shillong. I have visited Shillong before, so this is my second time here, and it's just as magnificent. So yesterday I was in Guwahati, and a lady there in the audience asked me, she's telling me, have you been to Guwahati before? So I said yes. So she said, are you going to Shillong tomorrow? I said yes. She's saying, which is more beautiful, Guwahati or Shillong? Tell me. Put me on the spot. So I didn't know what to say, like how do I tell her that Shillong is absolutely gorgeous, because I was in Guwahati at that time. So I said, both are very beautiful, you know, very diplomatic answer. And then she tells me, I'm from Shillong, she said. So, you know, so I felt very happy. Today when I arrived, I just opened my hotel room window and I sent a video to my family, and they said, wow, it looks like a hill station. So you all are very lucky to be living here. And very, very happy to be here and to see all of you. And to answer your question, how did I write 16 bestsellers? Now, do I start from the beginning? Do you all want to hear from the beginning?
Every word.
Okay. So I'll start from the beginning. So I'll tell you about my journey as a writer and how I became a writer. So I used to always write. Ever since I learned to write, I used to write. And my first book was at the age of probably 6. Okay, that was my first book, and that book was 6 pages long, and 4 pages were whatever stories I could make up from whatever stories I was reading at that time. It was about some orphan and some Robert Louis Stevenson, like, built with some adventure and all that, and 2 pages were illustrations. So I used to wonder at that time, how do these authors write so many pages? Because maximum I could write was 4 pages. But today I know how they write. So writing is not something new to me. I was writing when no one was reading me, and today millions of people are reading me and I'm still writing. For me, I write to make sense of the world around me. At the end of the day, I have to write in my journal, in my diary. I have been writing for so many years. And in college and school, I won prizes for short story competition, for essay competitions. Anywhere there was anything to do with writing, I would win a prize. So I knew I was good at it, but I never took it seriously. After that, along came my first job, then I got married, and then I had my children, and I continued writing in my journals, but I never thought I would write professionally. So what incited me to write professionally was actually a very sad incident. I was very, very close to my father, and my father was, due to his, I was living in Pune at that time, and my children were small at that time. My son was 8 and my daughter was 5, and a week later my father was to visit me, and suddenly I got a call in the middle of the night saying he had passed away, and absolutely no age-related ailments, nothing. And he was a person who exercised a lot. So that was a huge shock for me. My husband was traveling at that time, and I'll never forget the taxi driver who came home at that. He helped me to carry my sleeping children to the car, and then I flew to, I traveled whole night to Bombay, and then my brother and I took a flight and went to Kerala, and it was a huge shock. So for me, that was a realization that today we are sitting here looking at each other, but tomorrow, why tomorrow, even in the next 1 hour, we don't know which of us is going to be here or not. It was a huge shock for me, and it was very hard for me to come out of it. And I also realized one thing, people are very nice to you. They will talk very nicely to you when things are going good. When things go bad, most of them disappear. That was like something I realized. People don't know how to deal with that. They don't want to be around someone who is depressed. It's hard. So I didn't know what to do, honestly. And to get over my deep grief, to get over my shock of losing my father, I began a blog. I didn't even know what a blog was. I just so happened to read Economic Times, and blogging was catching on at that time. This was in the year 2006. So I began a blog, and I began it anonymously. So I was doing a lot of things, so I kept the name as a joke. I said just a mother of 2, because my children were small. So I wanted to be anonymous. I didn't put my photograph, nothing, because I said I don't know who's going to be reading it. If I put my photo, God knows, because internet is just new and I'm blogging. So anonymously I started a blog, and every single day I would post something or the other, something positive. And honestly, it was like a drowning person clutching on to a straw. So sometimes it would be a small thing like a rainbow that I saw, which I was grateful for. Sometimes it would be a cup of tea which somebody made for me, which I was grateful for. Because I said, the smallest thing that gives me joy, I'm going to focus on that. And I was writing primarily to help myself. But without my knowledge, so many people it was helping. I got readers from Brazil, I got readers from Japan, from UK, and in fact one of the readers, his mother, like after she read my blog post, knitted a beautiful hat and a scarf for me, and she sent it across. It came in the post, and then so I started writing blog posts. And in 2007, that year, one of my posts got picked up by a radio show host in the US. And it won the Perfect Post Award. And that post was about my father. So that was like a huge turning point for me. And then I started writing, and then people said, okay, we want to know who the person behind Just a Mother of 2 is. Put your photograph. And I was very wary because I don't know. Again, I was scared, okay. So I just put the photo of my feet. So whoever wants to see, let them see my feet, because I don't know what I'm getting into. So it was that way. But gradually I learned to navigate the good people from the bad people, and gradually I became braver, and I did put up my photograph. I made some very good friends through my blog, and this was way back in 2006. And I still remember the first comment I got. Nobody would read what I was writing, and the first comment I got was from an artist in the UK. And later when I moved to UK, we became good friends, and I remember excitedly coming down the stairs and telling my husband, someone actually read my blog and has left a comment. So we connected, and later his children and my children became friends, because later we moved to UK. But that was the beginning of my writing journey. And then after that, I wrote for a neighborhood newspaper. So because what I did is, I said I won the Perfect Post Award. I have won in school and college. I have won prizes. So there was this neighborhood shop, and they had free newspaper. So that newspaper just had little details about whatever is happening in the neighborhood. They had little details. So I went and picked up that newspaper, and I looked at who the editor is, and I called up that editor and I said, I want to write for your paper. I have written, one of my posts has won an award, and I've won prizes in school and college. And at that time, my ambition was that I should write something and I should see my name in print. That's all my ambition was, okay? So I called up this person, and this person said, fine, I'll give you an assignment. You write a 500-word piece on calendars. Okay, and I'm like, okay, what have I got myself into? Calendars. You see the date, that's it. So then I didn't know what to say, but now I couldn't back out. So I said, okay. I said, I'm not sure how to go about it. So he said, no problem, you come with me, I'll take you around Pune, you interview the people who manufacture it and write. Now I was terrified, because I don't know who would say, like, come with me and all that. And this was in 2006, mind you. So I just packed some chili powder in my bag and I went to a theater in Delhi. So if this guy acts for me, I'm just going to throw that chili powder on his face and run away. But he turned out to be a gentleman. My fears were unfounded. So I pretended to be a journalist in the best way that I could. I took a note, and whatever questions came to my mind I asked. Came home, struggled, wrote that piece, 500 words. It was published, and it was a good piece, it was published. But more than anything, I got paid for it. Okay, not only did I see my name in print, here I am actually doing something I love, getting paid for it. So I was like very thrilled, and he gave me more assignments. I continued writing for that neighborhood paper. And then what I did is, I took all my articles which were published in the neighborhood paper. I walked into Times of India and I said, I want to write for your paper. And the editor said, okay, you pitch me your ideas. And I am creative by nature, so I had a lot of ideas. So I was living in Pune, and Pune had these things, like they had something called pocket bikes at that time. So a bike which you can actually fold, carry and go. So I wrote an article about that. Many articles I wrote, like over 100, 200 articles I would have written, because I came up with ideas and editor loved them. So I wrote for in Times of India. And then I proceeded to write for, I pitched my ideas to Reader's Digest. I wrote for Reader's Digest. And then the natural progression of all of this was into a book, which was my very first book which was published. I wrote some articles for Chicken Soup for the Soul. Some of my poetry was published in Sulekha. So by now I built a body of work. So the gradual transition of all this was into a book. And from then on, my journey has continued.
So do you also have, like, while you're writing books, do you need solitude, or you would continue with your daily activities, with socializing, partying, and at the same time writing? How does it go about for you?
I am not a party person at all. I totally need my solitude. And while it may not seem so, I'm hugely introverted. When I say introverted, it doesn't mean I'm shy. I'm not shy, but I need to recharge. If I speak to people for a long time, like a phone battery drains out, my social batteries drain out, and I need to recharge. I write all my books from my room. I cannot write in a cafe or anything like that. So I used to have a dog, very dear, like a huge animal lover, and my Doberman was always next to me. She passed away, and she was my hand rest. So, I would rest my hand. So about 10 or 15, I think 12, 13 books were written with her in my side from my room. And do I continue with social activities? I absolutely have no social activities other than writing, gymming and drawing, and because I don't enjoy it, I detest parties. Like, if you call me to a party, sometimes I can't avoid. So I'll go, I'll pretend to enjoy, but I'll be dying inside and I'll be waiting to just get away.
Yeah, Preeti paints a lot also, so that also intrigues me, that do your paintings inspire your books, or are your books inspiring the paintings? How do they go?
I would say they're not connected really. They're not really connected because when I do a book, it's completely different. I have to create characters, I have to do the plot, I have to do so many things. Painting I do for the joy of it. I carry my sketchbook wherever I go. I have my sketchbook and I paint on the spot. Like wherever I go, I see something I like I was in Norwich earlier, this year, so I painted Norwich. And I just sit in front of it and I paint. Before that I was in Canterbury, so this one I painted in Canterbury. And before that I was in Switzerland, I'll just show you. So I was in Lucerne, this specific one, I was in Zurich by the river Linne. So when I was sitting there and I was painting, freezing, it was freezing, I was painting and my grandmother and a granddaughter walked by. And in something in Swiss German they told me, I didn't understand their language. They didn't understand my language because they never spoke English. And by gestures they told me it's very nice, So I felt very nice because I think art truly transcends.
I hope Shillong also finds into your book sometime.
Shillong did. Last time I visited, I did paint Shillong. It's very, very pretty. It's there. I stayed in Rikinjai. So, I stayed there and there was a beautiful lake there and I painted that. So, anything that I find, see, even in airlines, when I'm waiting to board the plane, I sit and draw. So that's and some of it, the airlines published it in their magazine. Once I was in Emirates and they have a very nice business class, so I drew it and they were so excited. They took pictures, they published. So art is something I do for the joy of it. I love doing it.
You have beautiful paintings.
Thank you so much.
So also Preeti, if any of you have read her books, you can see love and relationships play a very important role in your plot, in your characters. So what do you have to say, to the today's generation and to us? Because in one of your book I also read that you said getting married to your best friend is the most lucky thing that happens. Getting married to your best friend is the best thing that could happen. So,
I don't remember which book, but okay.
Yeah, it was there in one of the
Sounds
books.
like me.
So when I read that, it just resonated with me so much, because it's just so perfect. Because even I always used to tell that I'm getting married to my best friend. I would feel very lucky about that. So how do you take it, relationships and love? Do you feel it's transitioned over these years, and in today's time, how is it going? What do you think about it? You also wrote about Gopal Shankar and Rohini in one of your books, where you spoke about the love, the pure love that they have. So tell us a bit more about that, about relationships and love.
Yeah, I do feel that relationships are always grey, no matter how much you paint it pink. Okay, you can paint it pink, you can paint it red. But I feel they are grey because I feel they'll always be. I wrote a book called The One You Cannot Have. So, and the tagline of that book was, no matter if you're married, single, divorced or committed, there'll always be the one you cannot have, And I do feel that is true. Ask any married person, it's true, and that's a beautiful book about relationships. And I feel the core emotions have remained the same. The way people fall in love has remained the same. The feeling that you get when you first crush on someone has remained the same. What has changed is technology. So technology has today made it very easy to have connections, to break connections, made it difficult to break up, made it difficult to get over somebody. Because when I was a young girl, if we broke up, I'm talking about 90s, you broke up, you just tore up that person's phone number and you just moved on because we only had our dial telephones. But today, you can stalk them on social media, you can make the other person jealous, which is what my protagonist does. Pooja does that. You can post with somebody else and make them jealous. And then you send a message and you see the ticks. Oh, no blue ticks, she's not seeing, she's sin-zoned me. So all of that has added a complex layer to relationships. While the core emotions remain the same, the connections remain the same, I feel the way we connect to others has changed.
Yeah, that's very true. Because even Pooja and Arush are two of her characters in the book.
Yes.
And they are so amazing. Like, it was the first time for me that when I read their book, I actually was crying reading their letters. You know, it's happened in the movies with me, but while reading the book, it was the first time it was happening to me. So it was so amazing. Even that role was very great, the ones that you wrote in Pooja and Arush.
Thank you so much. That feels very gratifying as a writer because it's very hard to make people laugh or cry through writing. Okay, it's very hard. So if someone has read my book and laughed, so one of the books I have written is Love a Little Stronger. They are all true incidents from my life. So there's one, so what I was first published as 34 Bubblegums and Candies. Okay, that was a collection of my blog posts. So like I said, I was blogging. And I said anything that happens to us. Either it can be something which like a bubble gum, we keep chewing, take something out of it and spit it out. Or it can be a candy, something nice to be remembered. So it was a collection of 34 incidents. Some of them were hilarious. So yeah, and they laughed, people laughed reading it. So that's very hard to achieve as a writer. And now Jyoti tells me she cried reading my book. So that's another book. And that's also very hard to achieve as a writer. It's very hard. So, and a lot of people have told me that they cried reading my books. So I feel very gratified as a writer that I'm able to make people laugh and cry with my craft. And that takes like years of practice. So I'm very glad my books touch people in some way, make them feel something. I feel that emotional connect is very important in books. And I managed to achieve that, for which I feel very gratified, yeah.
So have you also ever experienced, like you've come up with a book every year, so does it also, like people talk about having a writer's block, that okay, you can't get ideas, you're not knowing what to write. Have you ever experienced that? Or you think that's not an existing thing, like as such?
I have never experienced it. I feel it's creative people just make it up. They always say, oh, I have writer's block, I can't write. So, you know, I've never
Excuse for the editor.
I don't know, probably, or maybe they do, because how can I say that they don't experience just because I haven't experienced? But I do feel that I always have this idea or exercise for aspiring writers. So I tell them that a block is when you feel that something that you produce has to be of the highest standard. Okay, then you get scared, then you refrain from doing it. And that's when you land into a block. So the one tip that I have for them is, imagine that you are describing this setting to a blind person. Okay, so there are these flowers here, there's a black table here, there's wooden floors, there are these sofas with maroon cushions. Just start describing it, end of it you have written something. So where is the block? So I don't get, where's the block? So either do that exercise or take a break. Okay, don't try it. I don't try it when I don't feel like writing. I make my art. Or do something which you have not done before, maybe travel somewhere. And if you're living in a city, you can't travel anywhere, maybe go by a transport which you've not gone before. If you haven't traveled in an auto, travel in an auto. If you haven't traveled in the metro, travel in the metro. If you haven't taken a bus, take a bus. Don't do something very different. And I feel when you come back, you know, your creativity will come back. It's because you're putting too much pressure on yourself that I feel people feel blocked.
So also for the budding authors, like the youngsters who want to be authors, how do you feel in India it is, you know, to tie up with the publishers, and is it too difficult? Like if you have a book ready, but how difficult is it to get a publisher publish that book? Or do you think in today's time it's better because now it's much more like techno-friendly and everything?
Yeah, my advice would be don't quit your day job till you make it big. Really don't quit your day job. I'm being very practical. Because the thing is, you will not be able to make enough money because authors, see, touch wood, I am in a position where I get 7-figure advances, but it's taken me many years to reach the stage. I can make a living off my writing. Most people can't, because most people sell only, they struggle to sell even 1,000 copies. They struggle. And the royalty they get is 10%. Okay, so 10%, if the book costs 250, just do the math. So where would it be enough even to pay your rent? So, you know, one thing I always tell people is do not buy pirated books, because you're really robbing an author who has put years of their life into a book. And the thing is, so till you make it big, I would say, if you love writing so much, take a job which pays you for writing. For example, you can work in a magazine, you can work in a newspaper, you can write articles, you can freelance. and work on your book side by side till you succeed and till you are able to sustain. Unless of course you have a trust fund or a lot of money, then it's fine, then you can become a writer. So it doesn't matter if it sells or not sells, but if you're thinking of it as a career, I'm telling you something very practical. But continue writing, because you have to write every single day. Every single day. It's like a muscle. When you want to build muscles, you go to the gym, you practice. Writing is a mental muscle which the more you practice, the more you become better at it. So you have to write.
So Preeti has also been called the Daniel Steele of India. So how do you feel about it? Like, how do you enjoy? Like, are you enjoying the journey of writing, having best-selling books, and like I think people are just loving the books. So
yeah, I think she should be called Preeti Shenoy of America. Not Daniel.
That's a good one.
I mean, why should it be like it's just some moniker someone said many years back, which I don't believe, because see, her books are all similar. All the books. Of course, it's nice that she's written so many books, but all her books, she doesn't explore a different theme. Whereas my books, each book, I explore a serious theme. But in a simple language, like A Life is What You Make It is about a girl with a bipolar disorder. And the book she spoke about, 100 Little Flames, is about old people, neglect of the elderly. Okay, when people are a certain age in our country, while we say Dadaji, Dadima and all that, nobody listens to them. Nobody has time for them, which I feel is sad. So my protagonist is an 85-year-old, very grumpy old man called Gopal Shankar. And by the end of it, you will really fall in love with the character and the book and all of that. And yet in another book, I have explored, in this book, the latest book, I have explored the post-pandemic life. Because we've all changed after the pandemic, and we all know what is important, and our values have changed, and that's what my protagonists go through. So each book I have explored something different. And yes, it feels fantastic that my books sell millions of copies. But I've had my share of ups and downs too. I've had my share of rejections too. And my second book, which was the book on mental health, the girl with a mental health disorder, got rejected 40 times, over 40 times. Not only in India, even abroad it got rejected. And that book has sold over 1 million copies. It's been published in so many languages. And the publishers who rejected it came back to me. So we don't know how we missed it. But sometimes it happens, you don't recognize. But if you believe in your idea, I would say stick to it. Doesn't matter what others think of it. If you have an idea, if you are sure of what you want to write, persist in your idea is what I want to say.
So many of your books are set in Kerala. There's a lot of Cochin, a lot of Kerala. So you have strong roots there, I guess. By reading your books, I thought so. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, so basically I'm not a Malayali. My mother tongue is Konkani, and I'm a Gaud-Saraswat Brahmin. So when the Portuguese invasion happened a few centuries ago, lots of Konkani, there was forcible conversion to Christianity, and a lot of people fled. So the most conservative fled the farthest south, so my ancestors went and settled down in Kerala. But we speak Konkani, so every summer vacation, my father and mother were born and brought up in Kerala. So every summer vacation, I would go there. And my father had a transferable job, so I was raised in different parts of India. But summer vacation would always be in Kerala, and I found it very beautiful. I learned to swim in the river, and I would play with my cousins in the paddy fields and all of that. And in my book, 100 Little Flames, the entire ancestral house which I describe is completely my ancestral house. That's exactly how it was. And my grandfather had this huge cupboard, and I was the only grandchild allowed to take books from that cupboard and read, because I was very meticulous and I kept the books back, and no other grandchild was allowed. And I secretly read his diaries. So we had diaries there. So I opened, and it was amazing because he had even written when my mom gave birth to me. So that was like amazing, and that found its way into my books. So in Gopal Shankar has his diaries. So rest of that is fictional, but then you know where that came from. So I love Kerala. It's a beautiful state. It's like fascinating for me. And then again I lived in the UK, so you will find a lot of UK in my books. So in this book you will find Birmingham. In the book which you read, yes, Norwich and Derby, because I lived in Derby. I lived in Norwich, and I used to visit Derby. My friend was in Derby. So you'll find UK, you'll find Pondicherry because I lived in Pondicherry. You'll find Chennai, I lived in Chennai again, Mumbai because again I lived in Mumbai. So a lot of places dear to me have found their way into the book. Probably some future book Shillong will feature.
Yeah, we hope so.
Yes, yes. So whenever I like a place and something in that place attracts me, I'll go and spend time there. And I'll research completely. And even if my book is fictional, you can be sure that everything that I mention in the book will be true. It's hours and hours.
With Ankita being in the mental hospital also, I think you researched on NIMHANS, Bangalore, is it?
Yes, I did. So I was living in UK at that time and I wanted to write about bipolar disorder. So I interviewed patients with bipolar. When I traveled to India, I went to NIMHANS and I told them and they took me around and showed me everything. So everything I describe in the book is based on that. And I came across a bipolar artists exhibition and that blew my mind. The images were beautiful. So that's what made me interested in bipolar. I said someone with a beautiful mind, what can they create and how does this come about? Then I spoke to a psychiatric nurse and did tons of research to write that book. So yes, I do a lot of research to write my books.
So we really hope that sometime you come to Shillong, you're here for a few days and we have a book about
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. So we'll open the discussion now to the house. If any of you are interested in knowing more about Preeti, you're more than welcome to ask her.
Yeah, anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me. Most happy to answer, yes.
How important is it for a writer to be a good reader or vice versa?
It's very, very important. In order to be able to write well, you have to read. Read as much as you can and read books. On my Instagram, I have reviewed more than 400 books. They are all in my highlights. So whenever I read a book, I review it and it's very important to read. And people who don't read and they write, you can immediately tell because the writing will be rubbish. Sorry to say, but it will be bad writing. You won't feel like reading it. But so it's very important to read. Please read a lot.
But also, how do you draw the line between taking inspiration and getting into the flow that this is a book that I like and maybe I would want to replicate something similar,
That's a huge no-no. That's a huge no-no. Please don't plagiarize. But the thing is, creative ideas are such that it's not uncommon. I'll tell you what happened to me. So I started writing a book and I was 25,000 words into the book. Okay, and I thought it was my own idea and my own plot and everything. I developed the characters. Fortunately, that Sunday I happened to read the paper and an Irish author had released a book exactly what I was writing. Okay, and she's finished the book. So if I wrote this now, people will think I copied. So I trashed the whole thing. The entire thing I trashed. So you have to be very careful about not plagiarizing. That's a huge no-no and that will come with practice. The more you write, you'll find your voice. So you will know it's not from somewhere. So the more you write, you'll understand that is your voice speaking.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm an academic from the university here. Actually, in our university life, we keep publishing a lot of works and mostly based on research. We rarely go fictional or poetic except on very rare occasions. But what we have come across, even after publishing from Oxford University Press or some of the university presses, is that we find it very difficult to approach a literary agent. I don't know how you handle them, and especially when you were talking of Britain, UK. There are smaller publishers with whom we are in touch with, and many of them are direct actually. But in India, we find that literary agencies really hound for the authors. They choose somebody, they preferentially mistreat with somebody, leave out somebody, accept somebody which is not actually producing something very great but something pulp. So how do you really navigate this entire terrain, which is very difficult for an academic like me?
No, the thing is, the literary agent is going to only pick that which they think holds, see, at the end of the day, it's a business. So the publisher will publish stuff which publisher thinks will sell. The literary agent is going to pick up stuff which they think they can sell to the publisher because after all, the literary agent gets a commission. So no matter what we think, because these are all terms which we come up with, okay, this is literary, this is commercial, this is pulp. That's what we distinguish, like, or maybe the bookseller distinguishes in order to place the book in a certain section. Like they'll say, oh, this is rom-com, this Indian writing is self-help. But honestly, I feel it's the literary agent's prerogative, because who are we to say what they should pick and they shouldn't pick? We are not the decision makers. End of the day, the publisher is the person putting the money. Literary agent is putting his or her efforts to sell it. So unfortunately, there's nothing much we can do about it, other than keeping on trying different literary agents and hoping that some literary agent sees merit in our work. Because if they see merit in our work, they will take it up and they will root for you and they will try to get you published. So it's not our decision, truly. It's just, you will have to just keep trying. And there's a writers and artists handbook which is published. I don't know if you're aware. So every year, yeah, it's published. So you can go through that and see who is accepting submissions, and it's just, and keep writing to them, pitching to them.
Post-COVID, some of these writers have told me that the payment of royalty and commission have gone down. What do you think? What is the market situation today?
I'm fortunately in a place where my first print run was sold out even before it came in the market. So I'm the wrong person to be asking, because I make a lot of money.
This was told to me by Amitabh, Amitabh Ghosh.
These books don't, I'm sorry, but they don't sell. So fortunately, touch wood, my books sell. So I'm lucky, yeah.
Hi, why do you think publishers initially rejected the book on mental health? Is it something to do with social stigma, or
I think
they actually came back? And
yeah, because I think they thought they couldn't make money off it. Because I thought that's the reason primarily publishers, or they might have thought that nobody will want to read about it, and they have their reasons. So we'll have to ask the publishers.
But then you said they all came back to you and said, why did we miss?
Because the book started selling like crazy. So once you have success, you will have a lot of followers and lot of. It's like Shah Rukh Khan getting rejected, and once he became a superstar, everyone coming to him with roles. So it's similar.
It's not anything to do with social stigma and people don't want to know about mental health?
I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know why they rejected it and why some other publisher accepted it. But the publisher who accepted it, got rich.
And you too.
I did too. Yes. So it paid off. So it's their their choice and yeah.
Hi. It was very nice, in fact, listening to you. And honestly speaking, actually, I have not read your book.
Okay.
But of course, I heard about you. And whenever I would buying some books from Amazon, your books will be popping up. So many books, Preeti Shenoy. One reason, I'm also an academician like my friend here. I'm the head at the moment of English department.
Okay.
So we have some kind of a notion about whenever something is bestseller, we always have a kind of a kind of an idea about the book.
Yes,
we thought
I know.
that book may not be that
Absolutely,
serious.
yeah.
And we might also think that this is the kind of book maybe the kids might like them, or this is not my age now to go back to that. So that is one way. But when I heard about you, from you tonight, then of course my notions about how you write and what goes into making a book changed quite a bit, and quite drastically rather. That is one. And of course I would like also to know from you, how do you differentiate a book, what we know as a literary book, and the kind of book you read, which touches so many people, in fact so many minds, and it made a huge amount of impact, both in terms of the ideas you give, in terms of course the kind of economic impact.
Yes.
That is one. And secondly, you have been a fantastic artist, as you have shown your sketches. You were a fantastic writer, of course. At the same time, I would like to know what other kind of genres you are into. Do you also write poetry? That is one thing I would like to know. Poetry and other genres. And secondly, of course, one typical question would be, since you're a woman, you're writing about women characters, of course, and their issues. How do you look at yourself from the point of view of, say, a typical, stereotypical, but that's the kind of question that would come from an academician, says a feminist, or if so, how do you look at yourself as a woman in the context of feminism globally, and how we can really provide a kind of a specific voice of a woman from India, giving its own intersectionality?
Okay, so I'll answer your question. I hope I remember the three questions. I don't think I remember. I've forgotten what you asked, but I remember what you first asked. And yes, there is a notion that bestsellers are substandard, okay? And unfortunately, I must say, largely what you say is absolutely correct. Because some of the books which sell, honestly, like there's no plot, the writing is mediocre, and there's no depth in them. Now, for whatever reasons they sell, the mass market, pulp, or whatever you would like to call them. And I feel in India there's really a dearth among that kind of writing and literary. There's nothing in middle. There is no smart commercial fiction which is deep, which is well researched, and which is written. Which is one of the places where like my books kind of, fill in the gap. So I feel that's like very important to have, because it's not that you have only literary prize-winning books which very few people, maybe academicians read. And it's not okay to have like pulp fiction which is not really like doing much in terms of storyline, characters development. So I feel it's very important to have books that address social issue which people can relate, which people get something out of. It's so important to have that kind of writing. And I'm glad that I'm able to make that kind of writing. And the second question, I don't remember what you asked. Oh yes, I do. I have written tons of poems. I have written over like 150 poems, but no one wants to publish it because poetry doesn't sell. So I just publish it. I have been commissioned to write poem by Condé Nast, so where I got paid for it. So that one came out in print, and one other poem came out in print, but otherwise it's all there on my blog. And the third question which you asked, whether I see myself as a feminist. So I would say that I write both men and women very strong characters. So they are just ordinary people who face extraordinary circumstances and come out of it. So I would say like, people just give these labels like feminist, she's a commercial writer, she's a feminist, she's best-selling author. And I feel I'm just true to my character and true to my stories, and I'm fortunate that struck a chord with a lot of people. So I don't see myself as this thing, but a lot of women have told me that they found inspiration from my book. So I'll give you an example. So this is my book, The Secret Wishlist. And I was only 3 books old, and I do believe that I get better with every book. So when I created the husband's character, so I was like, a little naive. So I took the bad qualities of all the men I know, okay? And I stuffed it into that Sandeep. So he's that Indian husband who's got terrible qualities. So I said, I made him like that, okay? And I didn't think much about it. But imagine my surprise, which later so many men reading it, they wrote to me saying, oh, we feel terrible because we are like that person. I was shocked. Imagine my shock. And then a lot of women wrote to me saying how, it feels like you've crawled into our heads and written our stories. So it felt like that. And that particular book, so there was this gentleman who was living in Dubai, and he never reads this kind of genre, okay, my genre, my writing he doesn't read, but he just happened to pick up that book. And he had finished it by the time he landed in Dubai, and he had a conventional, traditional marriage. And he thought that he had a great marriage and he was happy and all of that. And he read the book and he says, the first time I went and asked my wife, they've been happily married for several years, they've got 2 daughters. First time I went and asked my wife, what are your wishes? The first time. And she said that I want to wear a red dress like Julia Roberts. Okay, and he said, in Pretty Woman. And he said, I didn't even know who was Julia Roberts. So, and then he wrote to me, he thanked me, he said, I'm so glad because my marriage is stronger. He sent me a picture of his wife and his kids, and I felt very happy reading that, inadvertent, all of it was inadvertent. And someone else wrote to me saying he's going to ask his mother what her wishes are and going to make everything come true. So I felt very happy that my book touched a certain chords, even among people who don't read, this kind of writing. So that's how I see myself. So.
Make a perfect Christmas present for all husbands.
Hi. So I write a bit, and I was very fortunate to be published in a couple of anthologies in poetry. I have experienced that in my writing there's a lot of author surrogacy.
Okay.
So
what do you mean by that?
So a lot of my viewpoints and my life incidents I somehow creep into my writing. So I also feel that maybe that can hinder creativity and make me less objective. What do you feel?
I feel it's okay if you borrow from your life, because as writers we do borrow from everywhere. But the thing is, the more you write, like how much will you have? Your life material will run out. one book, two books, it will run out. Third book, where will you borrow from?
So in that context, how does one generate creativity? What do you do to generate creativity?
So I'll tell you, for me, how I wouldn't know how other writers do it, but for me what works is I don't look for ideas, ideas find me. And the ideas which I write are the ones which stick with me the longest. Okay, I keep thinking about it. So I have an idea notebook. Whenever I get some idea, I'll write it down. Sometimes it's at 2 a.m. in the night. So not a very, like if I get a very nice sound sleep, I'll feel very grateful that day. But I'll write down the idea, but next morning when I read it, I might discard it because there will be some nonsense which I have written, which I would discard. But certain incidents, like for example in the book 100 Little Flames, there was this thing which happened in Kerala. It happens in every state where they take old people to a religious place or something and abandon them. They don't come back, which I was shocked to hear. I was shocked and I felt helpless about it. So I got an idea about creating a character whose story is so compelling that we want to read him. And that was how that book was born. So each book I'll have something which sparked an idea and I would write about it.
And how have you experienced the emerging of personalities as the book goes along in your characters?
So for me, what happens is I create the character fully. So it's fully developed. I will even know the toothpaste the character uses. The reader won't know, but you know how their room is, where they spend their childhood, what fears do they have, what scares them, what dreams do they get, what nightmares do they have, how do they spend their time. Now, I create a 360-degree character comes alive. And sometimes, so when I start writing, characters don't listen to me because I have created a character. So they just get into a life of their own, and then as a writer it's my job to, because I am a plotter, I plot every single thing. If something happens in the 17th chapter, something else should have happened in the 3rd chapter because it's linked. So for me then it becomes a challenge to rein them in, but for me that's the exciting part about writing. Because I create a world and it comes alive and it feels very real.
Thanks.
Any more questions? No?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, sure.
I must confess I've not read your books.
No problem. No, not at all. I don't expect anyone read.
But
I'm always grateful if people read. That's perfect.
I must tell you, I think I'll start reading.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure you will enjoy it.
No, the other thing is that you look very young.
Yes, but
you've got 16 bestsellers already.
I have a son who is 26 and I have a daughter who is 22 and I'm 52. So I'm not as young as I look.
Now I'll come to the question.
Yeah.
Jyoti, in her chatting with you,
Yeah.
she made this point about your books, social issues which include especially women empowerment. Now, I want to understand from you how much impact has your books made in reaching out. Now, the impression I get is that whatever from the feedback that you get is that basically it is the English reading, okay? But apparently your books have been translated to so many languages, I guess in many other Indian languages also.
Yes, they have.
You think they have, the outreach has been quite extensive, well enough in India, for instance, because as much as you talk about women empowerment, there's still a very strong patriarchal
Absolutely.
system in India. And with all the political changes that are taking place, but it's still, I mean, the mindset is still the patriarchy is still very strong. How much impact has your writing made to bring some kind of change or even revolutionize the system?
So I'll just answer that. I will read out one message.
Now let me add to this.
Yeah.
Including things like, the LBGT, the live-in relationship, things like that.
Yeah, my books address all of that. One of my books has an LGBT couple. Another book has, my books, if you read any of, like there's a book called The Rule Breakers. If you read that, you would know. But I would like to read out a small message. I get hundreds of messages like this, for which I feel very grateful. So you asked me what impact did my book make. So I would like to read out a message which I got, and it's from a Kerala cricket player. Okay, with your permission, I would like to
Please.
read out. So this is the girl who wrote to me. So she's a cricket player in Kerala, and this is her batting. Okay, she plays for Kerala. So I'll read out the message, what she said. So she read my book and she said, "Hi ma'am, I'm Sayuja, Kerala cricket player, playing for Kerala for 6 years. I missed my last season because of an injury. I recovered in 4 months, but the whole season was almost gone. I was waiting for the season to soar. The season started pretty well. My fitness level, runs, all of it was fantastic. I got selected to play 4 matches against Punjab and Himachal. Unfortunately, I again faced surgery. I was going through my worst situation when I read your book, The Magic Mindset. I love the positivity you're spreading through the book. I felt much better after reading it. I'm a very lazy girl to read, but I completed your book without losing any interest. Thank you for this wonderful book. It helped me in the worst phase of my life." So like this, I get many messages, okay, like people tell me that my book saved them from committing suicide. Then a lot of women write to me saying, "We got courage to lead our lives." So I feel happy that my books are making that kind of an impact. I reply to every message. If you have messaged me on Instagram, you can be sure that I would have replied. And maybe if I have missed, maybe 1 or 2 I would have missed. If I get like, I get a lot of messages. So I feel very grateful that my books have indeed impacted people in a positive way. And because of the messages that I get, I know they have. And the fact is because they sell. See, when does a book sell? It's mostly word of mouth. You can have a huge marketing budget, you can advertise your book. But it's only when someone reads my book, now Jyoti has read my book, she will tell her friends, "This is a really nice book, go pick it up." Then her friends will read it. So it's always word of mouth. So I believe that my books have had an impact, and for which I'm truly grateful.
Okay, Nick, I just want to suggest that later, in case you consider writing about Shillong, do look at the matrilineal system here.
I will.
Because
Yeah.
there is a lot of debate about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I will.
plus and minus.
I will be 360 degree researching. Because even Kerala is a matriarchal society. Kerala is also a matriarchal. I'm familiar with it. But yeah, I will definitely be researching the entire thing.
Anyone else?
So over to Isha then. I guess we're done with the question and answer session.
A heartfelt gratitude to Preeti and Jyoti for this delightful conversation. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Your presence is special and we look forward to many more shared literary adventures through different Prabha Khaitan Foundation initiatives and programs. We are grateful for today's hospitality partner Vivanta, the Ehsaas Women of Shillong for their support this evening, and also I would like to thank Shree Cements Limited for their continued patronage for all PKF events. The foundation promotes cross-state cultural identities and appreciation. A mosaic of cultures forms the backbone of our nation, contributing to its vibrancy and richness. This is to support our ongoing efforts to foster unity and appreciation of a rich cultural heritage across India's diverse states by incorporating it in our food, events, memento exchange, and similar activities. Today we are pleased to present our guest author with one of such giveaways, an Ajrak stole. Ajrak is an ancient block printing method on textiles that originated in the present-day provinces of Sindh in Pakistan and the neighbouring Indian districts of Kutch in Gujarat and Barmer in Rajasthan. It's made of cotton and very similar to smooth silk. Could I now request Brother Solomon Morris to please felicitate Preeti Shenoy. Please pick up a complimentary copy of the book and Preeti will be happy to sign it for you.
One second. Retake.
नदियों पहाड़ों से गलियों किनारों से तेरी पहले की पहचान है, बादलों बेचारों से खुशी की फुहारों से काहे जाने तू अनजान है। हर दिन पग चल दूर है जाता, जाने कहाँ तू जाएगा। गोल है धरती और इस पर जो खोजेगा वो पाएगा। सांस भरेगा लंबी तो तू चैन मुफ्त में पाएगा। घर आने से डर जाने को बना नहीं था तू। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गाँव, मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाऊं। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गाँव, मेरी